Hi, my name is Mitchell Brinkley III, and I'm from Macon, Georgia, home of Little Richard, the Allman Brothers Band, and Otis Redding. Like the great people who came before us, everyone has a role model, someone influential, someone whose life or words tend to shape them into the person they want to be. I've had a lot of role models in my life. As a kid, most were cartoon characters or TV characters. Some were famous people, but none of them were really tangible or close to me. They guided me from days or months or years in the past, from television waves. As I got older, I found a few real people, teachers, relatives, friends who I could pick life lessons from, but they were either not who they seemed to be or gone too soon for my life to be a constant mentor. Through all my years of learning who I would become in life, I would always hear the words, you're just like your damn daddy. And as a mama's boy, I didn't always like hearing that, especially when I got older as a teenager, having arguments with him. As I got older, wiser, and saw my friends make the same mistakes they made in high school, I began to experience life more through the personality of my father than anybody else. I also began to realize that part of me has always gone through life looking through my father's eyes. So this podcast is the first of many that will chronicle and honor the life of one Mitchell Brinkley Jr. How did he grow up? Who influenced him? And what made him the brilliant man he is today? This is a man who has seen it all and done it all. I mean, this guy, he's been in a band. He was a truck driver. He worked on a railroad. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff, and he's met a lot of people. And through that, he's picked up a lot of teachings, a lot of sayings. He's very inspirational. He is always quick to give you some word of advice, so much so that he's not only influenced me throughout the years, even as I was a young kid, but he's also, because of that, made it to where when I talk to people, friends or family or, just some stranger on the street, I also give them the same teachings that I learned and I picked up. And, if anyone ever asks me, well, where did you hear that from? I will say, yeah, that was from my father. And one of the things that my friends always ask me, anyone who knows you, anyone who's met you, what they always ask is, first off, they say, your father's pretty fucking cool. And then they say, so what was it like, growing up around him? What was he like? What was he like when he was younger? And I usually say, I don't know. He doesn't really talk about his past. And so this is kind of how, that came about. So more people will know who you are and what you're all about. A long time ago, I remember you asked me, you said, hey, I want to chronicle my life. I want you to make a book about my life. And I said, well, that would be very cool. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, I'll never do that. I'll never finish that book. I mean, I have books and ideas that I still haven't to this day finished. So yeah, so I figured, why not do a podcast? I have all this equipment laying around. Let's do that, and you'll get to say what you need to say, and we'll give it to the masses.
And I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to sit here and try to discuss things the way I think I can remember them, since it's been so long ago. 16 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
But, I'm still here, and I'm still in different things, trying to maintain my pros and cons or whatever, So, we'll go through some of the stuff that I did in the past and start from there,
So, yeah, I mean, as far as the podcast is concerned, I wanted to do it as if we were sitting down writing a book.
Right.
You know, so basically, what I wanted to do was I wanted to start from the beginning. Starting from the beginning, where were you born?
I was born here in Macon, and I lived here all my life, basically, in and out, doing traveling and stuff like that. That's about basically all, for his leaving time. Spent a couple of months here and there, and working and stuff like that, out of town and stuff, So I'm here just trying to do my thing, and I always have been. I started out, early, on my own. My parents, they passed away at a young age. So I was basically, just freelancing, trying to find myself and everything. So that's where it basically started at.
So what was it like growing up in Macon? When were you born?
I was born in 1948.
Okay. And so basically by the time you were able to run around and, get into trouble, let's say about 5 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was 1953. So what was life like in Macon in 1953, Macon, Georgia?
It was sort of laid back, but, town was sort of like, it's crazy back there in those days, but yeah, it's still good days, it's good old days, so, when I was young, I used to do a lot of things with my dad, and my mom too, both, I used to he was a carpenter and everything, so he liked to do things, and I'd go out with him, help him on some of his job, when I wasn't in school or something, so I just enjoyed working with him, My mom, she was a good cook, great cook, and she liked to cook all the time, and basically when I'm at home or what have you, I'm in the kitchen, with her cooking and baking or whatever, asking a bunch of questions. That was my thing back then in those days, I liked to be in between the two of them, that was enjoyable,
Okay.
Just being around them, and having the time of my life, just enjoying them while he was still able to enjoy them and everything, so
right.
They was much older than most of my friends' parents were, over, me, and everything, so, but I enjoyed being with them long as I was here, and everything, so.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's see, when you were, let's say 5 years old, how old were they?
My memory don't go back that far for his age, because like I said, I was about 15 or 16 when they passed and everything. So
right,
and
do you remember how old they were?
Well, my mom passed at 50, 53, 52.
Wow.
My dad was 68, I think it was.
Wow.
Something along that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they was much, older parents than most kids were, parents were, yeah.
Yeah, putting that into perspective, I mean, I'm 35 and you're 64.
Yeah.
So for your father to have passed at 62, you said?
Yeah. No, he passed at 68.
68.
Yeah.
And you were 15.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, somewhere in that neighborhood. He was much older than my mom, so so it's sort of not odd, but he was much older than she was.
Right.
So,
okay.
And he passed about a year after she did, so you can imagine the difference between ages and stuff like that. He was 68, something like that. As I can remember, because like I say, I was just here and there and everywhere. I wasn't paying attention to life, passing me by with, them being older, and thinking they was going to be around a long period of time or whatever, so I really wasn't just counting the days or anything like that, I was just grateful to have them there, so, and that was the way it was in those days,
Right. I mean, at a teenage level like that, at 15 and 15, 16, even before that, I mean, no kid is really ever thinking, well, what's going to happen in life
No,
next? What's going to happen if
right,
I'm all there is,
right,
you know? So yeah, I mean, no kid is really thinking about the future at that
right,
point. To a 15-year-old, being 30 is old.
right.
You know, it's like, oh God, that's really
Yeah.
old. Naisha, my cousin Naisha sent me a text just the other week for my birthday, and she
Right.
said, happy birthday, old man. I'm like, I'm 35.
Yeah.
I'm not old.
Right.
I'm just not a teenager.
Right. But my mom and dad, like I say, time just passed by, not me asking a whole lot of history of them, during that period, so it just sneaked up on me, they was, leaving so early, in life, which some people, kids have parents leave earlier than that, on certain circumstances or whatever, but it was just, something I never just sit down with them and talk about. Different things, like a whole lot of things that they did and they, when they was growing up and stuff like that. So it's basically, I just was just enjoying the moment, with them and everything. It was good parents and everything, and I just enjoyed being around both of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to go back a little bit, I mean, in when it comes down to your childhood, I remember, you saying stuff about, growing up, with a dog and like small farm animals.
Oh yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
well, no, I mean, you go ahead.
Yeah, I grew up. Basically, my parents, they had this thing about, we had to go to church 3 times a day. I mean, on Sunday, we not 3 times a day. Sorry about that. But on Sunday, we got up, go to Sunday school in the morning. My mom cooked breakfast. We go to Sunday school, come back home. When we get dressed, we go to church around 11 or whatever. Get out, about 12, about 2 or 3. About 2 anyway, it's different back there in those days, Then we go in the afternoon around 6 or whatever and stay about 2 or 3 hours. So, so they was strict about going to church, stuff like that, We had to go to church, Sunday school. And they had, nowadays they got churches, they have the dining halls in the church and stuff like that. But back in those days, they didn't have churches with dining halls and stuff like that. We just had to take a basket, like a picnic or something like that, and just had tables, where everybody just put the food out, and we have dinners and stuff like that, And,
Yeah.
But it was enjoyable, My dad used to they used to have big barrels, to make lemonade in. He used to make the best lemonade, man. I want to tell you.
Now,
Yeah.
the barrels, were they like big wooden barrels?
Big wooden barrels, man. It's just like the old days. That's why I say, it's just a fun time back there in those days. You can't find that now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just enjoyable. Just to reach back there, and look at it and see where, you came from and how you grew up and stuff like that, and remember some of the good times,
Yeah.
And, the church was good times, you had times, you had plays and stuff like that you did and stuff like that on, the stage or whatever, stuff like, and different things, the church had, you going through and stuff like that as teenagers, kids, and at that age,
Yeah.
So basically, it was just a fun time to have things, and your people, around you loved and cared for,
Okay.
and people, they all watched over you just like you was their kids, it was a whole different ball game back there in those days, than it is now, where people, they don't be concerned about what other kids do or whatever, they see you doing wrong, they just turn their heads and keep walking, but they chastise you just like they use their own kids and stuff,
Yeah.
So, hey, it was just a good time back then in those days, for us growing up and everything at that age, yeah.
Yeah, it's more like what they say. It takes a village.
Right.
You know, the whole
Right.
neighborhood would get involved
Right. There you
and
go.
make
There
sure
you go.
that you got what you
That's
deserve.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you got punished, everyone would take turns, punishing you.
Well, it was it was discipline back in those
Yeah.
days. You know, you can't discipline your kids now. You know, like the old days. We're not saying that this is a good thing or a bad thing. You know, but if they had more parents, you know, keeping track of the kids and stuff like that, it would be less. You know, gangs and stuff like that nowadays. You know, and it was, back then in those days. You know, you just had things you could do and places you can go, like church, stuff like that, school projects and stuff. You know, you get basketball game, football game, you know, all kind of stuff like that. You know, so even though they have that now, you know, but even the grown ups, you know, might go out, watch the kid play football, basketball, baseball, whatever, and they, you know, rival between each other, you know, because of the kids, whatever going on, you know, you find the parents rivaling against each other when they're supposed to be supporting the kids and trying to teach them the right way to handle themselves in public and stuff like that, you know. So
Right.
mm-hmm.
So, what are your earliest memories?
Earliest memories?
Yeah.
Well, earliest memories, it goes way back, I guess, to when I was young, you know, and going to, well, even before I started school, you know, just being at home with my mom, you know, during the daytime or whatever, you know, as a small kid, you know, before I got into kindergarten or whatever, you know, stuff like that. Just being around the house, you know, playing and enjoying life, you know, as a kid, you know.
Okay.
I grew up, you know, and it was just fun just growing up around, you know, because like I say, you know, when I was at home with her, I basically be doing things or talking to her and just being wherever she at, right up under whatever, doing clothes, dinner, whatever, you know, I'd be just talking to her, you know, enjoying her company, you know, and everything. And my father was the same way when I basically with him, he had free time, stuff like that. Me and him most to go fishing, hunting, something like that, you know. And we used to, well, I used to have contests between me and him catching fish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know, see who can catch the most fish or whatever, you know.
Okay.
But more or less, he beat me all the time. But, you know, I'd be, you know, dead on him, you know, trying to keep up with him. You know, I pull in pretty much, you know, a pretty good amount of fish when we go fishing and stuff like that. So, but I made it out of a contest. He was just there to fish.
Right.
And, you know, enjoying me, you know, as a kid, you know. So, yeah. It was just. Mm-hmm.
So, like, okay, where would you go fishing? I mean, I'm trying to put Macon, Georgia, in perspective here. Like, do you remember what neighborhood you were in when you were younger?
Oh yeah.
Right. So, is it there now?
It's there now, but most everything has been torn down or whatever. You know, the whole neighborhood and the area of town, just a few. You know, it was called Tybee back then in those days. You know,
Okay.
but they had a big company over there named Procter and Gamble.
Okay.
Yeah, so you know, you can stand in my doorway and look right straight at it. You know, so you know, but all that's gone. It's out of the picture, you know. So
Procter and Gamble.
Yeah, that's
so
a big
this was,
company. Made all kind of products and stuff
absolutely.
like that.
I mean, you know, half the cleaning supplies,
right?
And, you know, and household needs are Procter and Gamble,
right?
So now, and it was in Macon at the time.
Oh yeah,
because to put things in perspective, I mean, you know. It was that you had your big ones. YKK was in town.
Well, that was long before them. Long before they came along. Yeah. But YKK and all the rest of them, they came about long after Procter and Gamble was even, you know, began and everything. You know, Procter & Gamble had been around a long time before they even got started. Yeah.
So was it before the tobacco plant? I can't.
Oh yeah.
The name escapes me as
Brown and Williamson.
Brown and Williamson. Yeah, that's where
Tex Print and all those. They was long after. That was in the 70s or somewhere along in there when they first came about. Well, I'm thinking around now dates and times like that. You know, I saw it escape me sometime. You know, but
I got you.
Procter & Gamble had been around for a long time. I was just a kid when Procter & Gamble came about, you know, and everything. You know.
Right.
And it had, when I remember, it was already there. It just, you know, I was just born and knew it was Procter & Gamble after I grew up and knew what it was, you know. So,
right.
But so it had been there ever since long before 48. So, because it was there before I was born. Yeah. So, and a lot of times, you know, beg pardon?
Well, I was going to say, you don't have to say that. So I was going to say, when it comes down to Procter & Gamble, you know, was that the only big corporation that was in town, or was there more there?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of big companies other than Armstrong, places like that. You know, a few places, beer manufacturers. You know, there was material. You know, they made material, different types of cloth and yarn and stuff like that. You know, there were several of those, and they was basically one of the main companies that was popular back then in those days, you know, to have jobs at and stuff like that, you know, for, you know, people other than maybe, you know, federal workers like the Warner Robins or the Warner Robins base and like the post office or something like that, you know. They was basically the top ones.
Okay. So yeah, getting back to, you know, that was a little bit of a derail, but getting back to
right.
Yeah, you know, I want to know more about your origin story. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I want to know about the humble beginnings.
Okay, you was asking about my pet that I had, my dog or whatever. I had that's where I was supposed to have been headed from Jump Street, but my friend at church, one of my best friends at church, we went to school together too. His name was Charles Davis. Okay. And we was, you know, we always got together. You know, I go over to his house sometime, you know, and we just get together. And well, it was in the little bit later on, you know, days after I got older. He gave my dog and I named it, you know, and everything. You know, well, he had already named it, so I left the name as it was.
Okay, what was the name?
King.
King. Okay.
King. Yeah. So I left the name exactly the way it was, King. So, you know, and I kept him for a long period of time, you know. But when I used to go to school, you know, he used to try to, you know, follow me and stuff like that. So I used to have to tie a little rope around him, you know, so you can get loose enough for him to get loose, you know, after I'm gone.
Right.
So he wouldn't follow me or get out in the street and get run over. But one day it happened anyway, you know, he got loose and he run and got in the street and got hit, you know, and took him to the vet and all that. But it wasn't, you know, I didn't have another one after that. So not for a pet anyway.
So now what about other animals?
Well, my dad, he's, like I say, you know, he liked to hunt and he liked to fish and stuff like that. And he used to breed dogs, you know, for hunting purposes, you know, and he sells them sometimes, you know, he hunt with them and stuff like that, you know. Hounds, you know, beagles.
Yeah.
And they use them for tracking, you know, game in the woods and stuff like that, you know, like squirrels, rabbits, different things, different animals, you know. And he used to raise them. I used to have to take care of them most of the time, all that kind of stuff, So
Right.
feed them, stuff, So basically, that was part of my chores or something like that, and he used to raise them, and a lot of people used to, come by, and purchase them, something like that, to hunt with and stuff like that, So.
But they were never for you would never use them to like play fetch or anything like that. They were really
no. They were really just for hunting dogs, animals and stuff like that. A lot of people used to come out for them and stuff like that. You should buy them. Just go out and hunt. And you used to hunt a lot. A lot of big game, small game, stuff like that. So
okay.
And basically, that's back then. Those days it was grocery stores and stuff like that. But you just had things you did for fishing, stuff like that. You had plenty of fish, rabbits, stuff like that. You make a meal out of. Good to go. It's not saying it's like you just they sell maybe rabbits or stuff like that right now for like gourmet dishes or something like that, and ducks, stuff like that, So
Right.
that's the kind of things they used to do. Deers, animals like that, It's just they go hunting, they might kill one or two, and him and the other ones they split them up between each other and put them on ice, freeze them,
Okay.
keep I never liked the deers, so it was a little too wasn't tame enough for me, a little wild meat, so I couldn't get a grasp on that one, so.
Well, what about rabbits?
Oh yeah, it was great. My mom she can
No,
smother and cover them good,
what does a rabbit taste like?
It's great. It's a lot of people say, different animals taste like chicken. That's what they always say most of the time when you ask them about a different certain type of meat, like frog legs, stuff like that. Oh,
Right.
It tastes just like chicken, but basically they do taste about like just regular, meat that you would cook that. Would serve up like chops of regular pork chops or chicken or something like that. They didn't have the wild taste once you got through with them anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and when it comes down to a rabbit, I would not imagine that there would be a whole hell of a lot to eat on that thing. You know what I'm saying? Because they're really. I mean, I know they can grow to be fairly big, but I've never seen one really any bigger than maybe like a miniature dog,
Yeah.
And so I never really, they're big, but it's mostly fur and all. I wouldn't imagine that the meat would be great.
It's just like, a duck, a goose or whatever, they look sort of gigantic, not gigantic, but huger than they look when they clean and everything. Once you get the feathers and all off of them, they just little small innocent bird,
Yeah.
So, and the rabbit the same way. Once you pull the skin off of them or whatever, and clean them up and everything, they're just a small, rabbit. You might have to cook 2 for a family of 4 or whatever, 3, So it was great, but not necessarily saying it was the way people did it back then those days. Not just mine, but everybody, that like doing it, hunting and fishing and stuff like that, just fair game. That's all, they do it these nowadays too, so.
So did you ever have to clean the fish?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I enjoyed, just helping out, around the house wherever I could, it was just carpentry, cleaning, trying to watch my mom cook, stuff like that, It's just, that's why I, do a lot of cooking and stuff today, by watching her. I do a lot of little repairs and stuff like that by watching my dad and stuff, so.
Like what all would he repair?
He was a carpenter. He used to help build houses and worked for a company, for building houses and stuff like that as a carpenter and everything.
Okay.
So it's just something I like to do, and do repairs on our house or whatever. So I was always there, wanting to jump in and try my hand out at it, whatever it
Yeah.
was. So, that's where I was. I can see somebody, other kids, or not kids, but, uh, older kids with cars or whatever like that. I want to look under the hood, see what they got and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to try to, I'll be there in the way, talking about, hey, what's this, what's that? I'm always curious, about things, so.
Okay.
And that was the way I was.
So did you do much? I know you did a lot of housework because you do housework now, as far as replacing the sinks and cabinets and, and doing sheetrock and stuff like that. I mean, the way our house looks now in comparison to the way it looked way back in the day is just day and night. And so I know that you can do that, but stuff like working on cars and let's say, let's start there.
Well, working on cars, there was a time, that's all I did. When something went wrong with my vehicle, I always repaired it myself, But nowadays it's a whole different ball game because they got too much, technology now. You got to put it on a machine to find out a problem. But most of the time back in the day, you troubleshoot whatever. You just had a small engine with no chips and all that kind of stuff in it, so you can just basically hit a sign or whatever and troubleshoot it on your own or whatever, once you get the hang of it. Plus, I went to mechanic school and high school, so, I did body work, worked on engines and stuff like that,
Right.
different things, brakes, all kind of different things to do with cars and stuff. So that was one of my projects in school,
Yeah.
I did workshop in school and high school and everything. So, but that was after, the younger days, when I went to high school and everything, I started doing all that,
Okay.
But, basically, excuse me, when I went to do people in the neighborhood, want cars or something like that fixed, I used to tinker with them, and learn a lot of tricks and trades to it then, neighbors or something, something go wrong with the car, I was there wanting to try to fix it or whatever, and I wound up, fixing a lot of them, so, they didn't have to go and take it to a shop or something like that, just little simple stuff with them, minor stuff, yeah.
So with your father, you got your experience with learning how to do carpentry. You got your experience with animals, training them for game hunting. Now, what did you pick up from your mother?
Cooking skills, doing laundry. Just make sure everything was the laundry was done, the ironing. Stuff like that, I learned how to iron and stuff like that from her.
Where did you get your knowledge? Where did if you had to pick between your mother and your father, and you don't have to, I guess, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, where did you pick up your street smarts? Your
street smarts that didn't come from them because they didn't allow that. But I sneak and do it anyway. Go out and do things. Just enjoy myself. When I got older, I used to go, and visit friends and stuff like that, and I just, start, dating and stuff like that, and it went from there until, my older years, so it started, I guess, around 13, 14, when I was 14.
Okay.
I started dating and stuff like that, so it was basically just I would call it, just dating, you know. So,
Yeah.
and when I started that, I just started, you know, going to club and stuff like that. Even though I was young, but
Right.
I was able to get in. So, you know, don't tell nobody that. But I was,
Okay.
I was still, you know, I wouldn't, you know, didn't look too old, but I didn't look like, you know, I was, you know, unable to just, I didn't have to even ask for no ID or nothing like that. But, you know, you can go, and I even had ran into some influential people, you know, back in the day when I was going in the club, basically, you know. And one of my brother-in-law, he was a drummer, so we used to go to clubs, you know, and I had a pickup, you know, and I used to take the instruments, you know, and carry them for them, you know, to different sites, you know, like proms and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of time, you know, they had a club downtown called the Offbeat. It was a jazz club. And he used to play down there on Sundays, you know, sometimes Sundays, you know, I used to go down with him, you know, and get in and just sit there and, you know, watch him play, you know, and stuff like that, you know. A lot of times, you know, I go and ask him to let me sit in for him, you know, a little while, you know, and he let me sit in for him, you know, I play, you know, and just, you know, I enjoy going down, you know, it's some place to hang out on Sundays, you know, you can drink, you can dance, you whatever, it's a
Right.
Sunday club, you know.
Now this
And,
now this was the time. This was in a time before, you know. I mean, you go to a place like downtown Macon, and you have basically you have dance, hip hop, Latin.
yeah.
And if you go, you know, further down the road, you have a country bar.
Yeah.
So back in your day, what all was available? Was it all just live music, or was
Live
it?
music, most of it, yeah, wasn't no turntables and stuff like. Well, you had turntables, but it was very few. Most of them was live bands, you know. And you call them house bands. You know, if you played in a certain place, you know, every weekend on a certain night or every weekend or whatever, what you call a house band. You know,
Right.
you played in the same place all the time, but you still traveled out of your comfort zone, you know, to other areas, you know, where you might travel to a different town or a different state or whatever, you know, and play different places, you know, and stuff like that, you know. But, you know, most of it played down south or either uh, mm, Alabama's, places like that, you know, all over the country and stuff like that, you know, close to home and stuff like that, you know, so.
Okay.
But a lot of times it was just, you know, just travel, you know. Uh,
But was it what type of music? Was it more jazz, more R&B? Was
well,
it whatever they wanted at the bar?
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, with the club that I started in was it was mostly jazz. Yeah,
Okay.
it was a jazz club. Really, you know, that's all they played. That was jazz.
Okay.
So basically, you know, you go in, you know, you sit down, you may already drink, you know, and sit at a table, what have you, and you just sit there and listen to jazz all, you know, for the whole evening or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And somebody might want to dance or whatever, you know, you had the area you dance at. But that was basically for just that club. But the rest of them, the other ones was basically rock, you know, groups and stuff like that, you know, rock and roll, you know, R&B, and, you know, different, you know, type music or whatever, you know. And that was about it, you know, so. But,
Okay.
you know, we traveled, but that was the only jazz club that at that time was in Macon, you know, all the rest of them was just regular, you know, music, you know, rock and roll, disco, whichever, you know, was out at that particular time, you know.
Now, you know, you always have words of inspiration, and you always have those sayings. And I've always wondered, where did you get that? Was it just something you picked up yourself, or was it something that was told to you by your mother or your father? Or
Well, some things I picked up by hearing mothers and fathers and mother and father saying, and some things I just uh, created on my own or brought on my own, you know, just certain things that I say or do or whatever, you know. Basically, I always been the type of person, I wouldn't say, I knew right from wrong, and just like everybody do, we know
Right.
right from wrong, But I always been the type of person I ask once, and that's it, You either say yeah or nay, So if you say whichever, that's the one I choose. I'll let you. If you say no, I don't ask anymore. But
Right.
if you say yes, then the answer is yes. I take you for your word. That's it. And
Right.
I'm the type of person that's the way I feel. I don't have to try to read between lines. I don't like that. I don't do that. And if I got something I want to say to you, I'm gonna tell you directly, straight out. There's
Absolutely.
no round and about way of doing it other than straightforward.
Yeah.
Mm.
And as far as I'm concerned, me personally, I'm about the same way. I can't hold my tongue. I
Right.
want to. Sometimes I
Yeah.
bite it, and I bite it way too
That's
hard
me.
for my
I have
taste.
to, so because I, flap of the lip, sink ship.
Yeah.
It's just,
If there's something that I want to say to someone,
yeah.
at work or even friends or what have you, if there's something
Right.
that's griping my ass,
Right.
I gotta say it, and it hurts when
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't express myself, and
Yeah.
that's one of those things that I've always noticed. You will not hold back. You won't just bite your tongue, and when you do, you are not in a good mood.
Not in a good mood.
Yeah, yeah. So, and when it comes down to your moral compass,
Mm.
I mean, I always say that something has shaped it. Whether it be church or whether it be the people you were around, whether or not it was your folks. I'm always getting compliments as far as, oh, you must have had really good upbringing. Your parents must be really awesome for you to be such a nice person and what have you. And that's not to pat
Well,
myself on the back. That's just to say that
well,
that's what people say.
I take that as a good compliment, because
Yeah.
I think what I learned in life was contribute from my mother and father, to inspire me to do and try to exceed to whatever I do in life, regardless of what it is. I try to give it my all, my best, anyway, so
Right.
yeah. And that's what I, try to instill in you guys, so, just whatever you do, I don't care what it is. There's no limit to what you do, as long as you do what you want to do, as long as you're happy with what you do. But
Right.
just make sure whatever it is, give it your best.
One of my favorite quotes from you, that I still run throughout my head every now and again when I'm unsure as to whether or not I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or back in the day when I worked at
Right.
places like Geico, and didn't know whether or not I wanted to stay on.
Right.
I remember way back in the day when I was a kid, maybe middle and high school, maybe before that.
Right.
I remember you said, "Look, I don't care, I don't care what you want to be in life. If you want to be a bum, so long as you're the best bum
There you
that you
go.
could possibly be,
There
so
you
long as
go.
you've tried 100%, I'll still be proud of you."
That's right.
You know, and I did or I worked on a podcast, Issue Zero,
Right.
just kind of introducing the show,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the one that instantly popped into my mind. I was like, I'm gonna say that in the podcast because that's my favorite quote.
Oh, yeah.
You know. And it always strikes me. We live in a world where there are a lot of people out there that are going to school right now, and they're struggling, and they're pulling their hair out because they're doing what their folks have always wanted them to do.
Right.
And they never really think, well, what about what I want? What
That's
about
right.
what I'm doing? With my life, am I happy with it? And I always go back and think about that whenever I'm making the decisions that I want to make.
Right.
And yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I think everyone should keep in mind.
That's right. and you do the best you can at whatever you like to do, and that's what you do.
Right.
You don't vary from it. Making $1 million is not contemplating on what you do to satisfy yourself and your mentality, how you want to carry out your life and your lifestyle,
Right.
But you want to, if you can make the millions, fine, But
Right.
hey, you want something you can enjoy doing and you can be happy doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're under a lot of stress, different things like that, you're not, it causes sickness and stuff like that in you, when
Absolutely.
you're stressed out all the time,
Right.
So you don't want to be stressed out. You want to be comfortable with whatever you're doing. And you want to give it your best, let you know that you're giving it your all. You're being the best that you can be, no matter what nobody else think. What you think is what counts, So
Absolutely.
that's my motto and my quote, to anybody that want to succeed in life. Just give it your all and be your best. Reach for the stars. If you miss, at least you reach for the moon. However, if you miss, at least you be amongst the stars, So
There you
that's
go.
one of my quotes too. So, so hey, and just do what you do, man.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, things like this podcast wouldn't even be possible really if it wasn't for what you taught me back in the day. Every now and again there are times where I need an outlet, and I don't do acting anymore. I don't sing anymore.
Right.
So just to do something that. That I think personally would be an outlet, something creative.
Right.
That's what this podcast is about.
Okay.
And I've always wanted to try to do something that with family and friends that not only could benefit the togetherness of things, but
Right.
something that I think more people should hear some of the things that we talk about. I think we have so many entertaining conversations
Right.
that
Right.
it's one of those things where I always think, man, we should have our own sitcom, or we should have our own TV show or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people think that, and they, a lot of people just leave it there. But I always say, I always say that I have
Right.
enough equipment and stuff lying around where I can actually do something
Right.
about it. So that's where this comes to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the man say, I've been around the world 3 times and I spoke to everybody twice. So.
There you
So
go.
I'm good to go, I enjoy what the life throwed at me, good and the bad, So, I've been a lot of places and seen a lot of things, So, hey, and a lot of things I've seen, some of them wasn't pretty. So, like accidents and stuff like that, that causes people to, have their life taken from them and stuff like that. So,
Right.
I just try to, identify with them, those people, because accidents can happen in the split second. You don't ever know when your time is up. So that's why I try to do the best I can, every day. I wake up and try to do what I can when I can and how I can, so, and that's life for me.
Yeah.
And really everybody should live their life to the best and to the fullest, because you never know when your number's up, so just be true to yourself and everybody else, A lot of people not gonna like some of the things you say or do, but, you're not trying to please them, you're trying to please yourself. And if you please yourself, you can please somebody else,
Okay, so 5 to 15 years old. So when you were that young, what were the schools like here in Macon for you?
The schools, basically, well, it's hard for me to imagine how they are now compared to back there in those days,
Okay.
But they was pretty, strict in the schools,
Yeah.
then or what have you. You did your work, and you got discipline if you did things, like acting out or whatever. So back then, in those days, it's not like now. You're not allowed to uh, discipline a student in school nowadays. Like back then, in those days, they used to paddle you or put you in the hallway or something like that. Different methods. They had different principals. They had different methods. They did, but most of them always, even give you one or two paddles or whatever like that, for discipline. If you was brought to the office or whatever,
Right.
so many times or whatever, or for something that you shouldn't have been doing or whatever. And they might paddle you some, strap you in the hand, with a little leather strap, once or twice, but that's about it, It wasn't like it is now, you couldn't discipline kids and stuff like that, now, but you could back in those days. So
Okay.
that was basically how it was in those days.
So, what were your favorite subjects there?
Well, believe it or not, math was my favorite subject back in those days,
Okay.
but in back there in those days you had kids don't get the proper, fitness in schools now,
Right.
they did back then in those days. Back then in those days you had recess, what they call it, which lasts for, I think, 30 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
You be outside, you go outside or you go to the lunchroom, you go outside and you have 30 minutes just to walk around the campus and, communicate with your friends and stuff like that, exercise or whatever, And then you also had 30 minutes PE, you go outside, you play ball, you participate in whatever the PE teacher, instruct you. You got your instructor, to do whatever you had to do, for his PE,
Yeah.
like, playing basketball or baseball or whichever, different things like that, But nowadays, the PE is mostly in the school building instead of outside where you can get fresh air instead of sitting in a classroom. The whole time you're in school or what have you. So it was basically like day and night from now,
Right.
So, but it was a good thing, because you had time, you can go out and stretch your legs and refresh your mind and go back and, do your work and everything.
So, do you remember the name of your school?
Yes, Banks was my grammar school, yeah.
And now, where was that in Macon?
And it's in South Macon. Was in South Macon.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Do you remember any of the teachers there?
Well, I remember one of my teachers. I think it was my fifth grade teacher. Yeah, Miss Evans. Miss Evans. She was a teacher there, and she was a preacher's wife, and she used to quote scriptures. Every time you come into class, you quote a scripture, from the Bible or whatever, And there was one scripture in particular she quoted one day, and I remembered it, that sort of, grasped and caught me, that it was the first song.
Okay.
And when she said it, it sort of, I didn't really, I sort of picked up on the vibe of it. I didn't really understand it, but yet still, it sort of grabbed me. It just stood out, from all the rest that she always, say, the scriptures she quoted or what have you. But it was the first song, in the Bible. And I always go back to that. I always remember that the time that she said that, and it's one of my favorites. Like today.
Do you remember the verse by heart? Can you say it?
Well, it's the whole. It's about 7, 8 verses. But,
Yeah. Give me a taste.
Yeah, the verse is first my mind ain't functioning right now.
Okay.
I hadn't repeated it in so long, but
well, if the verse is the same one I'm thinking that it is, I remember when I was a little kid. I remember that every night before I went to sleep, or just about every night, you would come into the bedroom. We would both kneel down at the bed, and we would say, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want."
That's the 23rd song.
That's the 23rd Psalm. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a little rusty on my Bible.
Right. I'm trying to put the first 2 words together, and then I can take it on from there. But it's let's come back to that when we get to
Okay.
it. But I know it, but it's a lot of verses that I recognize sometimes. I have to sort of picture them in my mind before I can bring them out. Like it's supposed to be in the Bible or whatever.
Okay.
Know? But it speaks about a tree planted by the rivers of water and stuff like that. Which your leaf shall not wither. So I was trying to remember the first couple of lines from it, so I can sort of try to go on through the whole thing with you, But that's basically what the first song is about,
Right.
You should be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, which also shall not wither, but like the tree planted by the rivers of water, which the wind drives away. Now, it's sort of confusing because I hadn't said it in so long.
No, you're good.
But it's this whole psalm, that chapter, the first psalm,
right?
The whole verse, the whole Bible. I think it's about 7, 8 verses of it.
Okay.
But it's a wonderful thing, to read or listen to, and it's just I know. Every time I read it, I get a different version of it, but it always means something just great, wonderful, something she might have just been trying to. Well, it just caught me, and maybe the Lord, probably let you see things in a way. Sometimes, you can sort of imagine a picture is just for you or whatever, But that was one of my favorite verses she always quoted, So,
all right,
yeah, and that was my 5th grade teacher, and she taught math too. Yeah,
I got you. I'm looking it up now. Psalms. This is chapter 1. I'm looking at. See, I don't know.
Psalms 1.
Yeah. Let's see.
If I start the first verse, first 2 lines,
Psalms chapter 1 starts off with "Blessed is the man
Blessed
that
is
walks."
the man that walketh in the counsel of the ungodly, therefore the ungodly shall not perish. Blah 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 blah. I sort of straight away from the start, but that was one of my favorites. I can remember if I just had the time to go and research it and do it good. But it's a favorite verse of mine. I just like the way it sound and the way it relates to you and the way it sort of make you see into the future, the life or whatever in general, So,
right.
Yeah. And so far, I've been blessed myself, and I hope everybody else, look at life as being blessed by the Lord and everything, Although I know a lot of people don't believe in the Bible or whatever, but I was raised that way, so
Right.
I just, try to, believe and have faith, so. And next question.
Yeah, I know. I know when I was growing up, I had the option of going and not going, and I went with my
Right.
Uncle Jerry and my cousins and my aunt. And, I do remember that when I was young, before I started going to church, that
Right.
you would always, do that prayer. And so it seemed to be, the right thing. I don't, we've had these conversations
I
before.
understand.
I mean,
Say
it's
no more.
yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
But it seemed that it seems like all throughout your life the church was a part of it, at least through your childhood. Now I know when I was younger, you guys didn't go to church. You would just send me off to church. But you're going back. I mean, you do still study. I guess my main question is, what made you stop at for that one point?
Well, for one, going 3 times on Sunday.
Yeah.
Not a good answer, but hey, you go 3 times a day on Sunday. Some people, go during the week. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just growing older. Like some people say, you get old, the old people used to say back in the day, you be smelling your musk, you go get out and cruise and see what it's all about outside the, church or whatever, so and that's basically, why I stopped going, a lot of times, not really, but it just dwindled down during the years. I just slacked off and just stopped, basically going all the time anyway, but I always, kept in touch with my roots by either reading the Bible or just, looking at ministry on television, what a television ministry.
Yeah.
Something like that, or listen to that ministry on the radio or what have you, I always, say my prayers or what have you, and even though I don't say them out loud around, people, just like some people, just do it, verbally, but I sort of go in my own private space, and just, thank him for all the good things he done for me and everything he done for me.
I got you. Yeah. So, one last thing, I guess, we talked about religion. We talked about you growing up with your father with the dogs and the and the rabbits and the fishing.
Yeah.
Which I never did. I never did ask you.
It's a sports game, that part of my life, it's just sports, like people do sports now, hunt, fish, and you even see things like that on television, like trout catching and stuff like that. Even the guys with their wrestling alligators and stuff, just a game thing, sports game, so, but.
Well, now, what's the biggest fish you ever caught? That's one question that I had that I never asked.
Well, I didn't weigh him, so I couldn't say, but he was at least about 2 feet long.
2 feet?
2 maybe 3 feet long or something like that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And where did you say you fished at again?
Well, different places, with lakes and stuff like that, and sometimes the river, on 2nd Street Bridge or wherever, just to be on the water or whatever, just like I said, a sports thing. They have no special places to go. You have lakes and stuff, you used to go and they have to pay, to go in and catch fish and stuff like that, lakes.
Now, was it a big event, or is it just, I got to get up?
Just me and my dad or whatever. It just wasn't no event. He like going fishing, going fishing day or night, whichever,
Right.
you go night fishing, but I couldn't go in the night because I had school day, stuff like that.
Right.
I only went on weekends or whatever with them, it's mostly, something like that,
Okay.
Or when school was out, maybe I can go during the daytime or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean during the, school, weekend, through the week, however, yeah. Yeah.
So, and you did say your dad was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to see any of the things that he made?
Well, I seen some of his work and stuff like that. I seen him build add-ons to houses and stuff like that.
Okay.
So but he also worked for the railroad years ago. For even while he was doing carpenter work at night on the railroad, daytime he did carpentry or something.
Okay. And now, did your mother work, or was that too far back in the day for that?
Oh, she basically was a homemaker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, she basically was a homemaker.
When it comes down to siblings, I know you have some. So yeah. So where were they in the picture? We've been talking about you and your mother and father, but what about your sisters?
My sisters, one, she stayed in Florida. Well, ever since I was able to know anything about that she lived in Florida. My older sister, and
that would be Aunt Liz.
Aunt Liz,
yeah.
She lived in Florida all her life, basically from the time I was born, far as I can remember anyway, until, she came back home after my mom passed.
So now, how old was she back in the day when you were 5? Well, let me back up then. Yeah. How old is she now?
She's 70, I think 72, something like that.
All right, so 72, you're 64, so she's 8 years older.
Oh, yeah.
Did I do the math right on that?
No,
72,
she's
you're
11
64.
She's 11 years older than I am. My younger sister is 3 years older than I am.
Okay.
And I'm the baby boy.
Yeah.
The youngest, in other words, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were 5, she was 16, and so she left when she was 16 to go to Florida?
Yes.
No.
She was living, well, she was in Florida way before I was even born. All my days I remember for her coming to visit on holidays and stuff like that.
Well, now, how did that come about then?
I have no recollection of how it come about because, like I said, I didn't ask a whole lot of questions about, different things. She's my sister as far as I'm concerned, but she's otherwise my half-sister, but now she's my sister. So when I was born, I didn't know anything about anything, but, she come home to visit and she was my sister.
Okay.
But she never actually lived in the same household as long as I can remember,
Right.
So my younger sister, we lived together, from day one, when I can remember back, we used to live together all our lives,
Right.
So, but my older sister now, she's by my mother, but her father, I don't know anything about him, and she never told me about him or talked to me about him or what have you.
Really?
So I don't know anything for that. So.
Okay, so that's a breakthrough in itself.
That's a breakthrough in itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, people don't like talking about the past or whatever, I don't know how it come about, but I asked her a couple of times about it, but she never, came across and told me about whatever. I don't know. I can't say. So.
Yeah, it's like a little mini Brady Bunch thing. Your dad had a child who lived in Florida. Your mom had a child who,
No, my mom had a child lived in Florida. So.
Oh, your mom had.
It wasn't.
So.
She's half sister.
All right.
So it's my mom's daughter.
So Aunt Liz is your mother's daughter,
Right.
and she went off, and your
And
father. It wasn't.
No, he wasn't the dad.
All right.
He wasn't the father of her.
Okay.
Okay, you understand?
Yeah, no, I understand. Now, how about Aunt Shirley then?
Aunt Shirley, she is the biological daughter.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Wow.
The daughter of my dad, yeah. So it's just two of us, and Liz is my half sister.
Right.
Basically, yeah.
Well, see, the fascinating part about that is because of in that day and time,
Right.
You would think that, that if your mother, is Aunt Liz's mother, then she would keep her, she would have to have taken care of the child, because for the longest time, the child went with the mother. But I guess, I don't know.
Well, it's a long story. I don't know anything about it, but, you can ask questions. Sometimes you don't get an answers,
Yeah.
but it's still, but it was, my mother had her before her and my dad and got together, so.
Okay.
I don't know what the deal is, why she was in Florida. Well, she just left home early, in other words, just like I did. But her parents hadn't passed, in other words.
Right.
Just vice versa, So.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
very cool.
She was there until my mom passed. When she passed, she came back home, and she's been here ever since, So.
Right. So, how was it growing up with Aunt Shirley then?
We had our differences,
Yeah.
She's.
I'm talking about from 5 to 15. Now we'll go into the rest
about 5
of
to
it.
15 too. You know what I'm saying?
That young,
our sisters and brothers. Even brothers and brothers or sisters and sisters. You had a little bickering going on between each other here and there or whatever.
Yeah.
But we was close. We got along good. But sometimes if you push me or whatever, little minor petty and stuff like that,
Right.
But otherwise, it was great, growing up, with her and everything. So,
Okay.
we all got along good, It was a good family type our orientation thing, so it was great, We got along pretty good. It was just little, how kids, go back and forth with each other. He did this or she did that or whatever,
Yeah.
Just like brothers and sisters normally do at that age, So.
Yeah.
But
He stole my Barbie or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. You go up, you get older, you sort of, be in a different situation, stuff like that. It's just like sisters and brothers normally do, know. So it's nothing different for most people, families or whatever, sisters and brothers.
Yeah. So, I said just like my Barbie earlier, but I don't know.
Well,
were there...
I wouldn't take a Barbie, but, maybe... Well, maybe something, just maybe a book or something she read or whatever, something like that,
Well, the question I was about to get to is, what were the toys like back in the day? Now kids have
Barbies,
toys that can do every fucking
you
thing.
didn't have the Barbies back there in those days that I understood was paper dolls. You put it on the back of a cardboard plate cut out. And you just put them on there, I think, and just wrap them around so they'll stay. Those were the Barbies, I assume, back then in the day. I didn't play with them, but my sister did.
What about yourself? What was your favorite toy back then?
My favorite toy, I had a pair of have-gun with travelers, pistol.
Oh.
A pistol called remember Paladin back in the day?
Yeah.
Have-gun with travelers.
Yeah.
That was I got a set of those for Christmas.
Very cool.
And that was one of my favorite toys other than my bike.
Okay. Was it one of those, was it a cap gun or,
Cap gun, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because back in the day, you hunt game and stuff like that.
No, it was cap gun, yeah. No, I wouldn't call a regular weapon a toy.
What all did you use to shoot, like from 5 to 15? What all did you, what guns did you get a chance to play with? Do you remember?
Play with?
Well, I don't mean play. I'm sorry, that was not a good word. I mean, for hunting game.
Just a rifle. I still got my father's old rifle. It's
Yeah, I remember it.
some years old. It's antique.
Yeah.
So I kept that as a reminder. You know, so
So did he let you shoot that rifle, or did you have your own?
that was he had a you would say an arsenal rifle.
Yeah.
So, but once he passed, I sort of just sold them off, little by little, and I just kept them because I didn't have any use for them. Once they passed, for his fishing, I didn't ever go back fishing again when my mom passed.
Yeah.
I never did. I was on creek when she passed fishing with me and two other guys, friends of mine, And for some reason that day, I don't know, it just, I didn't snap, but I just got upset, because one of the guys just kept he kept getting his fishing rod hooked in the, debris in the water and everything, losing his lead and his caulking and stuff. So I had the toolbox, my fishing box. I had to keep getting caulking and just about all of mine was gone, what I had reserved for myself. So, and I just, for some reason, just put my rod down and just say, I'll give up. I'm not fishing anymore. And I just sit there on the lake till they got through. And when I got home, I found out she had passed.
Yeah.
And I ain't been fishing since then.
Yeah, no, I remember Chase wanted my.
Oh yeah, I hate
Chase
that.
and his
He's a good guy. Chase is a good guy, and I hate I didn't respond to his invitation. So, but
Well, I mean, he didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but that was the reason why I didn't, because I hadn't fished since she passed.
Right.
So I have a friend out on the lake now. He didn't offer me to come out there numerous of times to fish in his pond. He got a pond and everything, but
right.
I never go. I'm invited anytime I want to, but I just never go. Because I never been back fishing since then.
Yeah. Well, what about your father? You said that about a year later. What was that year like with you and your father?
Well, my father, he's after my mom passed, he sort of went down spiral. So he was I guess like, I don't know, he's just grieving. I guess from the time she passed until he passed. What have you. He had a stroke in between the year that she passed and a half a year between the time she passed and about a year later he passed himself. So yeah, he had a stroke and he passed about a year after she did. So
what do you remember about the two of them together? Like, what do you remember about how they interacted with each other, how they treated each other?
Well, they was basically like most people, just go and come, just, she cook, he clean, he go out and earn the money or whatever, come home and take care of the household, and she keep, dinner ready and stuff like that, just a normal couple, so as far as, I can remember and everything,
Okay. But when the work is done, when it's just, the dinner has already been eaten, the dishes are washed,
They talk just like most people to a certain degree, and, you go to bed early back then.
Oh,
yeah. You didn't have a whole lot of daylight left between dinner and bedtime or what have you, so.
Right.
You got to get up, you go to work and school the next day, so, you turn in early,
Did you ever, get a chance to, like, just have family time, just, mother, father, you and your sister?
Oh, yeah, we used to go different places, like, you used to have the air shows on the base and stuff like that.
Yeah, they
go
still
to
do.
air shows and different things like that, And I remember once we went to an air show and we was going there, and we had a flat tire on the way there. We was just about to the gate, and we had a flat tire before we got there. And we was on the side of the road. He was changing the tire. And I was sitting there, I guess about 4 or 5, about 5, something like that. And for some reason, how kids just pick up a piece of blade of grass or whatever, put it in their mouth or whatever. And I messed around and had to, just had it in my mouth and messed around and swallowed it, And the only thing they knew how to do to keep me from choking is turn me upside down and pat me on the back till they come back.
Did it come up?
It did.
Oh, man.
I was just as small, so they had to turn me up, upside down, pat me on the back till I spit it back out, So I thought that was bizarre, but hey, what else could they do? I mean, they weren't doctors or whatever. So that was the best thing and the only method they knew at the moment. So, But it came back, so... Yeah, but we used to go to air shows all the time, see the planes, doing the little tricks and flips and stuff in the air and stuff like that. That was back then in good old days, get to see the planes flying, the airmen doing the maneuvers and stuff in there.
Yeah.
But I hadn't did that since they passed either, so I thought about taking you guys once or twice, but I didn't think your mom enjoy going out there or wherever, so standing in the heat.
It does get hot out there
most of the time, and doing different hours and time when they have them too, so
right.
But that's no excuse. I could have took you. Yeah, but I enjoyed it. We did a lot of things, for that was and going to church and stuff like that. It's basically, what our outing was about, stuff like that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Don't really want to get that much into it, I guess, but you'd already talked about your mom's passing. Now your father, I guess the question that I really have is, what was that? What happened that day? I mean,
well, the day he passed, I always sort of play it back in my mind sometime. Maybe, he was in age plus, and it's sort of, I sort of, I blame myself and I don't, say it probably wouldn't, I don't know how to phrase it or whatever. But, he passed and it was like, I don't know. I wanted to sort of be a hero or whatever and save him, really, because me and my sister Liz was there, and she, I guess, probably knew more about what to do than I would have, but yeah, and still, I was a stubborn little kid or whatever, so I took them on. She told me to go outside, wait on the ambulance or whatever. Let them know what house to come to, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to stay and call myself, do CPR or whatever on him, And that was maybe I should have let her do it, even though she kept trying to tell me to go out. And I want to stay and do it, and whatever. So I blame myself a lot of times. Maybe he probably, I know he wouldn't be now, but, maybe a couple more months or whatever if I hadn't. So
right.
But, it's still, I don't know. It's just sometimes, I think about it or whatever. I could have maybe prolonged it a little while longer, but he still, either way, it would have been still suffering or whatever. So, but I just wanted to be there. I want to be by both of them side because I cared that much about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's even if you had to went out there looking for the ambulance, trying to flag one, the ambulance down to send them over there.
Yeah,
I mean, they got there as fast as they could. They
yeah,
probably would have been there either way.
yeah.
So
But from my remembrance, he was gone anyway before, they even got there because, his eyes that dilate and all that stuff. I don't know all that much about the dilation, but, people just fade out,
right,
so. But I didn't want to lose him just like I didn't want to lose my mom.
yeah,
And when she was in the hospital, she was in Augusta Hospital, and I wanted to stay down there with her, but they made me come home. I was a kid, but I had to find some way to survive. But
yeah,
they wouldn't let me stay, so I drug me out.
yeah,
And she was on a bed, and I kept telling her I was going to stay, so she was trying to say something because she had tubes down her throat. But I don't know what the last words were.
mm.
Never will. So,
What?
it's a lot.
What? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's just a lot that I just run through my mind sometime, about them, even at this age.
Yeah.
Just like it was yesterday or whatever, sometime, just thinking about them.
Yeah.
And how good they were, I enjoyed being around them. Even though, I should be done growing out of it at this age, but, it's still just, I don't know. It's not something I want to dwell on. Sometimes, you remember some things, and you just go back to it. It's nothing you're dwelling on. You just remember,
Yeah.
Remember good, you remember bad, you remember different things that happen in your life, And if you care about them, you're going to remember them anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before I get into the question, I want to ask, what did she die of?
A tumor, which is, I assume, considered as cancer. I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I assume tumor and cancer related, some kind of way, I'm not that far into medicine or nothing like that, so, but
right.
you can look it up on your computer and find out.
I'm assuming that grandfather died of heart problems. Yeah.
Stroke. He
Yeah.
had a stroke, as far as I know. They mostly, I was young, the youngest one, so they sort of kept everything sort of in between the two of them, my sisters. So, if I asked questions, I barely got straight answers or whatever, because I guess they thought I couldn't handle it or whatever, so I just left it as it was so I wouldn't make waves. So.
Yeah. You needed me back in the day. I would have set them straight, just like I did you guys back in the day. Remember, I always said, "Look, we are a family.
Yeah.
It does not help to leave me out of the out of the loop. There, I need to be involved.
Well, that's
in the
why
process.
I try to tell your mom we should all discuss matters. Me, you, and Michael. And her when we got crisis or something to discuss, even if it's not crisis. We all, sit down and discuss it together as a family.
Right.
Not as the Partridge family, just a family, you know. But it makes sense to me, because sometimes, if you don't let your kids know what's going on or whatever in the family or whatever, how each other feel or whatever the situation might be, it can cause problems or whatever, in the long run. Why didn't he say this or why didn't I know this or whatever, So you should always be upfront with your kids or whatever, let them know the situation, as much as possible, as much as you can and when you can,
Yeah. Okay. What are the memories you hold as far as your mother and father is concerned? What are the best moments to you?
The best moment?
Yeah.
Well, the best moments is the time I spent with them.
Yeah.
And all the time I try to divide time up between the two of them and just be there for them when they needed me, and they was there for me when I needed them.
Yeah. Any sayings or any interactions that stick out in your mind that you still to this day use to I don't know, to use as a guideline for your life, or to use as something that motivated you to help be the person you are today, not just carpentry or knowing how to cook or or wash clothes or what have you, but
The best thing I can say is I know I'm not saying I never lied, but the main thing with me for sticking out is to try to be as straightforward with people as I possibly can.
yeah.
And I mean, they accept it or not, So, especially the ones that I'm close to. Somebody else, maybe I might not say as much or whatever, But the ones I'm close to, I like to try to be straightforward with them, so they'll know, hey, I'm there for them if they need me.
Right.
And I give them all for the ones I care about and love. And that's my family.
Yeah. And when it comes down to that love and devotion, I mean, that's something that is always known, even in the days where I remember when I was younger, we used to argue, fuss and fight about different things, but I always knew that you did it because you cared. You did it because you loved me, and the teachings, the things that your foundation, the teachings that your parents gave you is what made me and Michael the people that we are today. We don't hold back. We don't like to have things just bottled up inside of us. We don't, we don't want to be mean to anyone or lie to anybody. I tell my people, at work, the people I manage, I tell them, hey, look, I'll never lie to you. You might not like what I have to say, but I'm not going to lie to you because that's all I got to give you. So yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, those are your beginnings. That is your origin story. That is what made you the father that you are today. And that is the reason why, we are the people we are today.
Well, I like to think so because, I mean, when my parents tell me something or told me something, I always took it as that what they mean. If they say yes, I can have some candy, I get it. And if they said no, I can't have any candy, I don't ask anymore because they don't say it no one time. So, I don't expect them to be like, hey, stuttering, no, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. I was the type of person that couldn't understand that from the beginning,
Right.
So I might maybe ask her twice or what have you. But after that, no more, because I know that's what they mean. That's what they said. So,
there you go.
And I just say, I remember another scripture in the Bible, honor thy father and thy mother,
Yeah.
And that's what I was taught in Sunday school. I was taught in church. So I try to do that. Basically because I cared for them and I loved them.
Yeah.
And that's what they taught me in church and Sunday school.
It does make it a whole lot easier. Yeah.
So, that's what I tried to do. If they say no, I don't try to, can I,
Right.
And that was just my way.
Right.
I grew up faster than I should have, in other words.
I got you.
So it was,
Well, thank you so very much for talking to me. I mean, this is a podcast where, yes, we are chronicling your life. And just like the Bible says, I'm honoring my father in this. So thank you very much for that.
No, thank you for having me.
There is already, in this first episode, a lot of stuff I didn't know about the family. And none of it's bad. I mean, it might have been bad or unheard of back in the day, but I mean, now it's just like, okay, so
I know,
I mean, yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
But
Thank you very
I
much.
I appreciate you for having me over and talking about my life in the past. So, I hope you understand a little bit more about me in depth, and I just tell you things that, you might think, hey, he's just saying this or saying that or what have you, But
Yeah.
I'm always love you guys, even your big sister and your big brother and your little brother and all that. So, hey, y'all are part of me. I'm not giving up anything until time.
Thank you very much.
That's what I'm going to do, So I love all 5 of y'all and treat you like, hey, you gold to me, And you are.
Well, this is the first episode. This will bring a close to the first episode of my dad's podcast. I'm Mitchell Brinkley III.
Mitchell Brinkley Jr.
Yes. And we'll see you next time. I love you, Dad.
Love you too, son.